This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
Call to order the regular meeting of the Municipal Building Committee on November 26th. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from October 15th, the last time we met. Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
Second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We've got a number of invoices. 3 of them I sent to you, and then Chuck sent you a few more afterward. First is Gilbane. Invoice 40 for $531,628.43.
So this one's representing lease retainage to MJ Daly, which is holding back on that care 6 we've got all those up documentation for.
Are they completely paid out?
They've not been paid.
Well, this would pay them.
Would pay them.
This would pay them.
And is everything clear?
We believe so. There's the warranty issue with the gym unit.
That's complete. I haven't gotten any information on that. I know
so according to MJ Daly, that is complete, but it's also a warranty item. So
have anybody go back and check?
We have not. So they just got it repaired. I just sent it. Now that it's repaired, Phil, I spent a conference call for Thursday. Going to get ourselves, Carrie, MJ Daly, and then the BVH on that, because we talked about recommissioning, and Carrie brought a point of, because of the cooling cycle, at least you want to get the commission agent, design team yourself, and discuss that unit with MJ, and so number one, you understand exactly, we all understand what was repaired.
Right, and we need it recommissioned, because it's been repaired.
Well, that's what I think about, like, to get DTC on board and BVH as well, and get their input. Is it a recommissioning, or is it verification of operation? What is it we want to do to ensure you?
Well, I just wouldn't trust them to tell me that it's all set.
Correct. Yeah. So we have MJ. We'll have the BVH. We'll have DTC. We'll have multiple parties. I mean, BVH represents the owner. They're the third party. So right. Just have that discussion, and then based upon what we're hearing from them, make a decision of how we want to proceed to ensure that unit is.
Right, and there's still an issue that we're finding as we're trying to change filters within the building in the small LG units in the ceiling, that the filters are not exactly the right size. So we're opening up the unit and the filter's actually falling out. And, so it's not in the proper position when the units are working. So we're finding that not only are the filters dirty, but the units themselves inside.
The coils.
The coils are dirty.
Okay.
So there's something up with, I don't know if it's 100% of them, but the ones that we've seen so far have been off by like 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, which is making them fall out of track.
So when they were originally installed, you think the wrong size?
I believe so. And I've had an independent contractor in there checking them out, and he believes the same thing. So I don't know how many there are. There's quite a few.
There's a lot of LG.
Yeah.
These are the ones that are in huge gangs up on the roof.
No.
Are you talking the individual
ones in the classrooms?
Rooms,
in the classroom.
Okay.
The interiors. Okay. The ones on the outside we already changed several times per maintenance requirements.
Yeah.
So when you change the filter, that means then you have to clean all the coils as well?
Exactly.
That doesn't take any time.
Oh no. And it's a big.
So let's discuss that. We'll discuss that.
We can discuss it. We
yeah,
have to
look
at the situation.
Yeah, this is not new. No, it's not new. No, it's been brought up over during this discussion on Thursday. Let's bring it up with them and find out.
Other than sending my contractors back to check every one of them, which is costly, I haven't done that yet.
Is this part of the MJ Daily work product?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what they installed.
Okay. So then I don't know if they cleaned the coil. We didn't clean the coils after construction because they don't do a construction change in filters.
The units were commissioned though. So.
Yeah, I know, but
I'm sorry. What is that? Does that just simply mean that someone said to us that these are working as designed? Is that what that simply means?
Installed as specified.
So during commissioning, there's a couple different parts of the commissioning process during construction. So they're gonna be doing installation reviews in the field to ensure they're installed properly. There's proper clearances for changing filters, accessing the equipment, the physical installation. They also create pre-functional checklists that the contractor has to go through as part of the specifications, and they issue that. That's issued in the specs to the contractor, so they have to make sure that that checklist is complete before even trying to start up the unit.
But who does it? Is it a third party or is it the ones that are doing the install?
BVH creates the checklist. The contractor, MJ Daily and Controls, they'll go through the checklist and they have to submit it to the commissioning agent before they'll even come out. So if that checklist, if they don't certify that those items have been complete before, and there's different stages. There's a checklist for the installation, checklist for the startup, and then there's also the actual commissioning checklist that they'll go through. So the contractor has to complete these checklists before the commissioning agent will do the next step.
So the commissioning agent is a third party who's not involved in the install.
Correct.
So that's the person.
They're like an
that
inspector
signed
for
up.
any.
So there was someone who was not doing the actual install that supposedly looked at the install.
Yes, BVH is directly contracted with the town. They're not directed through the
There
contractor.
are
They're not.
technical eyes and ears for that phase.
So then, if you're saying that these potentially are too small, that person signed off on that.
Potentially.
Well, that's where I want on our meeting, on our discussion Thursday, I wanted to talk about it with BVH because they may have an item with that or not. They may have inspected, say, no, we inspected this is what's going on. But I want to talk to BVH because they're a third party. They're like the testing lab, but for kind of a bad comparison for MEPs.
So is the ultimate request here to pay MJ Daily the $531,000 sum?
That's what this would be doing. It's one of these ones where I understand we're talking about it with Phil, and we have to look into the.
Yeah, I would suggest at least holding some retainage until we iron that all out with the third party and make sure we're all set to go. I mean, that's.
Do you want to hold their portion of it pending our discussion?
I would say hold the whole portion, but I would hold a percentage of it.
I mean, there's $500,000 that we're withholding from. That's a pretty good chunk of change for these. You know, if we're talking the filters, initial recommendations, hold 50,000.
That's up to you.
I think that's.
I'm just thinking we don't give it all to them until we know for sure.
Well, I would hold 2 times the estimated value. Typically, that's what you do.
Yeah, I don't know what that is off the top of my head. So, I mean, if we're talking changing filters, how many of those and the manpower to do that?
Well, again, we're at the point where it's not just changing filters, it's
Cleaning
coils.
Yeah.
We hold the whole thing and maybe they'll get it done because it's just been dragging out for a long time.
Well, my thing.
I'd like to hold $500,000 and they can come have a meeting on Thursday and change the filters.
I would just regular hold it, subject to having our meeting. Phil will be there and Gary will be able.
We'll meet again in a couple of weeks and if it's all been taken care of, we'll approve it. Well, let's get this thing wrapped up.
Is this your invoice entirely that?
No, there's other portions that are.
Split out the MJ part of it.
There's Civitello for $5,000. He repaired the steam or the steam to the cells or the discoloration of the cells satisfactorily.
Yeah. I don't have the full invoices for Laura Park. Are we definitely going to be meeting December 10th? Because I know that's our next schedule. I think if we're definitely doing that, why don't we follow up on this issue? And if there is, we decided there's an outstanding, let's revise it because I think we tried to do the math here. It's going to get.
I'm sorry, Mr. Memo. Where are we doing the math on?
Well, I wouldn't try to retract it here. I would if we're definitely, because we're kind of in the middle with the meetings. We're definitely meeting December 10th. We're having our meeting Thursday. We'll have definitive either way by that meeting.
Yeah.
And just hold this, and if at that meeting there's an issue, we'll redo this invoice and submit for the other work.
We're going to take it easy.
So, put on hold.
But who else are we withholding money from if we do that, besides Civitella?
I think it's K&M, if
Because they do their work's complete. I understand that you don't wanna sit there and manually add and do.
well, the only thing is in order to, either we hold the whole thing or
Yeah,
release
just hold it
it.
till the time.
I think it'd be necessary because we'd have to redo it. We'd end up coming back on the 10th if things are fine and redo it. So I just hold the whole thing for now, for the amount that those dollars are. Theirs is a majority of that amount.
So we'll, put that on hold, table that one. Next on my agenda is Primary Electric NHMS 1109-18392, which is the auditorium egress lighting. And we had previously, did we approve? I think we did.
It was their quote, and I included in the packet, Gary,
Yeah,
their invoice packet behind, there was a quote that the billing committee had approved for $22,000.
Yeah, and the final invoice was.
So it's for $22,120, and then they installed exterior wall packs in the gym on the high school side of the gym.
Right.
There, and then some come-up exit lights. I think that was at the stage doors.
Right.
For the stage, the 1,527, the 1,500.
So the total was $25,144.95, and these are except for the exterior wall, which was a request. These are fire marshal requests. So the job is completed. Looks good.
Completed, inspected.
Okay. So we'll need to have a motion to approve this invoice.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Gary, has the fire marshal come back and approved?
He just
It's been approved?
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And along with those same lines, North Haven Ceramic Tile, invoice CG 803318 for $1,608. This is, we had to have them come in to peel back the carpet on the aisleway so that the lighting strips could slip underneath the car ceramic.
And then lay the carpet back
And then put
over?
it back. And that is $1,608.
What did they have to do, glue it back down?
Yeah.
When peeling back, did it cause any damage to the carpet?
I don't think so.
That carpet's made to be removed. It's got to release. It's a special type of glue that's used for that type of carpet installation. So if you ever damage it, it peels right up and that one sits right down.
Put back down smoothly without like, cause you know how it goes.
The motion to approve,
I make the motion.
Second.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now, the remainder of these we're gonna have to add to the agenda. Make a motion, or the Strategic Building Solutions Colliers invoice 22953 for $2,215.53.
Both of those.
And another one for invoice 22953.
It's the same one.
That's the same one. 22734 for $754.08. G Donovan for some shelving, 6156, $7,580. G Donovan again for the stage, 6155 for $11,916. Perkins Eastman, 49970.13.0-11 for $1,454. And that's it. So, your motion for those? Can I go see the agenda?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now I'll take them individually. First one is the Colliers 22734 for $754 for the packet that here today.
You're on order. Couldn't resist.
Which one?
Is there a motion?
Which one?
22734.
No, but who is it?
Colliers.
A few good. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Is that for 221553?
No. 22734.
I don't know.
It's on the front.
So if you look at the cover sheet of the packet, it's the
Yeah, no,
first
I see.
invoice, or that's for the month of
I was
September.
talking about the dollar amount. So 22734, 754. Okay.
75408.
Okay.
Is there a motion to accept? Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, Colliers again. Invoice 22953, amount of $2,215.53. This is for October.
Yes.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? G. Donovan, this is for the shelving.
Preferred shelf.
$11,916. Having trouble with numbers today.
Actually, it's 6156, that one's for, I think. Okay, there's one before that.
Yeah, he did. We haven't seen the other two, or he set them out of order. That's why I got confused. But they're both.
No.
Just tell me the
Well,
dollar.
we're doing the one, we'll do with the
6155.
countertops.
What's the 20% mark?
There's $11,916 for that millwork. There's motion to accept.
Okay, just a question on the invoice for $11,916. What is the 20% markup on?
That's on the subcontractor that did all the they provided all the millwork materials in this bedroom. This is on state contract. Under the state contract, they have prescribed markups that are already pre-negotiated. That's their markup for the state contract for that. That's all for state contract. That's not like something we negotiate with them. So.
I make the motion.
Second.
Discussion?
What had we approved for this originally?
For this, that was the amount for the millwork. That was the actual amount that was approved. The next one coming up is actually lower than what they quoted. So, King plus.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, another G. Donovan. This is the $7,580 invoice 6156. This is the stage overlay. I had given them, no, this is prep rooms again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's two different work. There is the sped millwork and then the shelves and the sped prep rooms.
Okay, so this is the other portion of that.
Yeah.
All right, $7,580. Is there a motion to accept? Motion.
Second. This is below what we had.
That is correct. Yeah, it was around 11,000 for that one as well. So they came about 4,000 less.
And it fixes the problem.
This was for just shelving that was in the prep rooms to get some of the stuff off the top of the shelves. There was a question of the the capacity of these shelves. They're not made for super heavy boxes. This is not a primary storage room. It's just to get light stuff off those shelves. But that's what that was for.
Right.
It's been installed. So otherwise, we have to put vertical support probably down onto the actual surface itself if they wanted to go heavier.
So everybody's satisfied with this?
Seems to be. I mean, everybody would like more, but they have what they have.
Better than none.
What's that?
Better than none at all.
Right, but I'm still stuck a little bit on the carrying capacity, or however one would describe it. So, because we've seen some benches, we've seen some other, I don't know if they failed, but whatever, they sagged.
Yeah.
And for $7,500, I'd like to see that not happen here.
Yeah, this was This wasn't part of, if you remember, it wasn't part of our original project. And the request was to add additional shelving above that. And we didn't have Perkins necessarily design it for, I'll say, a certain capacity for heavy boxes. It's
Just made for lightweight.
It's really just a shelf that you might, I guess, put up anywhere in your house or maybe in a garage to get lightweight items off, because everything was stored on the building. There was no above storage, so there wasn't necessarily engineered calculated pounds per square foot.
On shelf, I understand.
I think the intent of this was to get the equipment and the glassware and everything off the bench. Right. The shelf. So they can use the bench as a work surface. Motion, do we have a motion? To
We
accept?
have it.
Second? All in favor? Opposed? It's not on here, I need to have invoices, but I did give them the go-ahead to put the overlay on the stage floor, and it's just gonna be masonite, standard for a stage, a black masonite covering over the stage, so that the boards and all the other obstructions in there would be a flat surface. And that was about $7,000?
$7,964.94 was the quote.
That will be coming.
So we'll coordinate that with Phil over either Christmas break.
That's the best thing to do.
So
Next, Perkins Eastman. This is the regular, looks like November.
yep, standard invoice.
Charge 49970.13.0-11 for $1,454. The motion to accept.
Make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Is that it, Chuck?
We're paid up with
Yes.
Perkins though, right?
Yeah, this is just the most, everything's paid up in full, I believe it. We'll probably be seeing an invoice for the preparation of the Gym 4 documents.
Yeah.
Probably next month, but yeah. Full.
All right,
You guys, to be clear, you guys have to approve the stage when we actually get the payment depends on.
Yes, this has been, everything's been approved for payment. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
well,
You don't want that on record.
we increased the PO amount, so we should have to-
Yeah, I think that's what's back.
Change orders, a couple of change orders, none really old, but we need to approve. It's just the new gate stone for the front of the building where the, by the front door, there's an empty space right now, it's ATP 246 for $2,657. Is there a motion to accept that?
2,657.
We didn't have anything for that.
No.
No, this has been encumbered for a while. This, I mean, it's a small amount, but we've had it in our files for a while.
Motion.
For a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This is the what I was referring to, stage floor overlay for $7,964.94. Something that we need to do, and I told them to go ahead with that, but we need final approval from this committee. So I'll entertain a motion for G. Donovan for $7,964.94.
Make that motion.
What is this for masonite?
It's a masonite board covering. Right now, it's just individual boards like a hardwood.
It's the original flooring.
It's gonna tighten
That's
up
all
the-
coming up.
It's gonna tighten up the whole stage.
They have loose boards and there are like brass plates and things over.
This is like a plywood covering or something?
Yeah, it's a masonite. They're going to get the better masonite for. There's different types you can get. This is a sacrificial surface that's meant to be replaced. It's just going to be screwed in place. It's not going to be glued. It's meant to be removed if necessary, replaced with a similar material, but it's a wearing surface.
Is it black?
It'll be black, yeah.
Who asked for this material? Was this the art program? Was this the art teachers? Are they getting what they want?
It was a combination, I think at the time of the last performance, there was a lot of discussion about some problems with the safety of the.
But are they getting what they want to
I
replace, to
believe
fix
so.
the problem? Who came up with the masonite? whose idea was that?
This is something that's been installed in other stages and other projects that we
It's
would
typical
typically use.
stage.
Yeah, it's pretty standard.
Now, when they move gear and sets and things over this, do we know what the flooring is going to look like? Is the color going to come off, or what is? It's going to obviously be heavily used. So, do we know what this material looks like when things are dragged across it? Are we going to see straight marks? Are we going to?
If the paint wears, the material's a dark brown. Typically, it's about kind of like this color. So it's going to be dark in itself.
So black or brown spots.
But you don't see it.
The thing is, Michelle, especially the stage floor, you're going to be doing a lot of layout lines. Those floors are often scuffed.
So they'll be able to put tape marks for positions and all that, and rip up the tape, and it's not going to come off.
If it does come up, you have a can of flat black.
Is there a warranty on this flooring?
So we paint the high school.
This won't. There really is not a warranty because you have an existing.
We paint the high school twice a year because it gets stuck.
You'll be able to paint this. You'll be able to paint this material. All right. So all I want to know is it's going to be fixable and not beat to hell, and then that's what we have to look at.
If they're not careful and they just drag things around and throw stuff around, then it's going to get beat to hell.
But I want to make sure we're able to maintain it.
Well, maintaining is one thing. Having them be careful with what they're doing is another.
Well, easier said than done. Middle school kids.
I think your existing floor, the problem is you have individual boards tongue and groove that are presenting potential tripping hazards.
And there's divots like that. I think they used to hold microphones and things that are just like in the middle of the
They're
stage.
floor
So
boxes. It's going to go right. We're going right over to floor boxes with those.
And they don't need access to those. They weren't utilizing those. Okay.
Yeah, we looked at those out in the field.
There's no prior electrical that was reused.
Okay. Well, I made the motion.
Second. I think it's a great idea. What about the bleachers? Do they come out from underneath the stage? They don't go back up on the stage, right? Okay, so that one doesn't impact the other.
All right. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we have some pricing for the handrails, but I don't think that was a fully loaded. That was just the quote from.
Correct.
So I don't know if you have the final.
Has Perkins been able to review that, Joe?
Yeah, I sent the email.
Is there what you're looking for?
Yeah, what we're looking for, there were a couple of minor things, but yeah.
I'll package that up for the 10th.
Okay.
So the cost is accurate for the handrails. I need to add to it paving, which is the other two items that would be in addition to this.
So I believe in the package we had from Shepherd Steel. That's the base quote for that. So the 10th will have the final campaign.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't this one of the things that we wanted to get done over the Christmas break? Is that still going to be doable if we wait until the 10th to approve it?
So hold that one. Just a few open issues. One of them, I have the HVAC system. I think we discussed that already. We have a plan and a conference call on Thursday to discuss that. Have the gutters been?
The gutters were repaired. Phil, are you aware of any outstanding issues with the gutters?
I am not, and I didn't know they were repaired. I mean, things get repaired, somebody should let me know to come in so I can go up at least see what they're doing and check.
Okay. If you have any further issues with the gutters, please let us know.
Yeah, I'll actually take a walk up there today. And, the only other issue we have is that leak in the gym storage room, which I've had the roofer out to. We found some little slits here and there in that area, repaired them all. Of course, it rained the next day, and it's still leaking. I have to believe that it's coming from either up higher on the high roof on the gym itself and leaking through the glass or the steel of the metal of the glass.
Yeah.
Or it's the glass itself. Because we just can't find any other place where it could be coming.
Do that, and yeah, because that could be coming from.
I think what we need to do is get the roofer and the glass people out at the same time, and maybe do some type of water test on it, and see what's going on with it.
Is it major or just the?
It's coming in it's where the lower roof abuts the upper part of the gym. It looks like it
It's a
could be
high wall.
coming, it looks like it could be coming in the flashing, but it's not. So we've caught where the
There could be
flashing.
multiple sources on that one.
Yeah.
we-
With a high wall location, I suggest that we just have a third party envelope that come out and do a water test on it.
Yeah, because I just, everything we've done so far hasn't stopped it. We've caught the seams where the flashing goes into the wall. We've looked and repaired anything we thought might be possibly a leak. It just keeps coming in.
It was on that EPIS portion of the wall.
Yeah.
What about the stained ceiling tiles in the hallway outside B224? Did we find what that came
Yeah, that
from?
was from the HVAC. When the HVAC was not working correctly, it was humidity. We had a problem with one of the control boards.
So-
And that's a maintenance issue, has nothing to do with that. It's already
So
out of warranty.
it's out of warranty?
Yeah, that type of stuff is there.
But it was an issue with the HVAC, an ongoing issue with the HVAC.
Well, not ongoing,
How
Yeah.
long did we have an issue? Up until recently it was
but, well, we
resolved.
had to order a part for it, so it took a little bit of time.
So they're not responsible for replacing that? So is that stained ceiling tile still there, you're slipped on?
I thought it was changed, I'll check. We wanted to make sure it was all fixed before we changed it.
You have that in stock for this, right?
Okay. Gym floor replacement specs, we just got last week, I believe.
Yep.
Specs from Perkins Eastman on the replacement. Now, I guess, Joe, you could talk about which we're proposing on that?
Yeah, well, I think the first step for the gym floor replacement is to get everybody's eyes on it who's a stakeholder, so we're sure that we're putting the lines where we want them to.
Yes.
That's the first step, and then we have some sample products listed in the spec. We rely on Phil and other people who are dealing with athletic floors to see if that's an acceptable spec. And once we have that feedback back, we can make revisions to the drawings so that the lines are where you guys want them. We suggest the athletic director be involved. We suggest any of the intramural teams that use the space be involved. And obviously the principal and Phil.
How is that going to affect the heights at the doors? When we take that floor out, there's 3/4 of an inch going to take out, and then you have the sleeper tracks underneath that are going to come out. Are you using an elevated type system with plywood doubled and then?
Yeah, the height of the system, we think, again, until we're able to get in there and take a probe and make sure that the depth is actually what we think it is. We think that the floor that we're installing is slightly lower than the existing floor.
I think you have about 1.5 inches total to the concrete.
Right. So that being the case, we'll probably have to mitigate those transitions with a threshold, some kind of a saddle as yet to be designed. But that's
So
within,
you think it'll be lower, not higher?
We think at this point it'll be lower, yeah, just because there's so much in that other system. You have, the metal runners that are going through there and so forth. That being said, we want to get the feedback on the system and make sure that the system is something that's acceptable to you guys before we go further. Once it is, we can take a look at that and look at the depth and make sure that we have the thresholds properly designed. Larry, I think I had asked Lindsay, maybe she's not the right person, were there any photographs taken during the patching of that
I
area?
believe so.
That would be extremely helpful for us to have.
Let me,
That's what I was trying to remember when I was watching it. We didn't bother doing the patching. I believe it was only would have been a total of 1.5 inches from top of floor to concrete.
Right.
If I remember correctly.
Joe, to move the hoops on the side, the half court hoops, would that be extremely costly? The one side?
That's in our scope of work as well. So so that the half court surgeon as much space as possible.
So that's what goes back towards the bleachers.
Right.
Can we,
So,
Chuck,
we have to, last time we thought we had everybody satisfied with this gym floor location. And it turned out it wasn't.
Right.
Now we have to redo this whole thing again. So we have to make sure that everybody's happy with it.
Absolutely.
Who needs to be?
Well, I mean, I would take the gym teachers first of all.
Right.
And Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave. And let them sit down and look at it and see how everything is. I mean, if we line it the same way it was lined before, if we line it the same way it was lined before, we move the nets back to where they belong, I think we should be fine.
You gotta line it more. So the basketball court ended.
No, we have to reline it all anyway, so we're gonna reline it to match the new locations and hoops. That's all coming up anyway. So once we reline it, it will be relined to match where the hoops are going.
And I'm assuming this is just the main gym, the office is probably okay.
Yeah.
For lining.
Are we
Dave?
still talking about one of the as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty similar conditions.
I just worry what can of worms that when we go down to the bottom, and then how much it's gonna cost us to remediate or whatever.
You never know. We're fairly confident it's clean environmentally.
Because it was checked in the
Because it's
spot.
tested, but you never know what you're gonna find.
Gary, I still have asked a number of times if we can confirm that those side basketball courts were installed on the correct place originally.
That's my court. I thought I sent you a plan, David. I didn't. I think I extracted it. I never sent it to you. That's all my court. You'd asked that a couple times. That's I'll follow up with that today.
Thanks.
So next steps, Joe, to finalize that. Well, actually, the line placement is the flooring. Go ahead with the line placement, correct?
I don't know.
The flooring can go ahead without building designs, right?
What's our next step for the?
Well, just show them farther up where they're at.
So I think we need to have everybody's eyes on the product that we're using. So I mean, my understanding was that
there's
you guys did gym flooring in high school many years ago, that there were some issues and problems with that.
Well, I'm more worried about making sure we put a good moisture barrier between the new floor and the concrete that's existing. I would take moisture samples of the existing concrete in several places to see what the content and the moisture is of that. Because those floors tend to bubble and move. Because there's always a vapor barrier in between. So I don't know what we're going to use for moisture protection, but I want to make sure that either it's a sealer on the concrete, we test the existing concrete to see if there's any moisture present more than would be normally acceptable.
Right. I mean, my memory of what was under there when I was tested was there was a bituminous compound that was over the concrete. One of the reasons I'd like to see the photographs is to see whether that was extensive as far as we know or not. If so, I don't see any reason to change that particular compound. It's probably working fine, and it's not hot. But we would have to do some destructive probes in order to get down there and see what the depth of that system is currently, and see what the vapor barrier is.
Yeah, that's the only thing I would be concerned about. We did have that problem in the gym in high school with retainage and moisture under that floor, which caused some issues.
Okay. So there are different floor systems that we need to decide on. Is that part of?
Yeah, there's different grades. I mean, they all work similarly. There's resilience. There's resilient spacers, and there are sleepers and so forth, and all of them. They're just different manufacturers and brands. So.
Will we be reusing the coping around the outer perimeter?
Probably not. We would probably replace that with a vented thing all the way around.
So you're going to remove that coping. Will we have to repaint the walls, touch up the walls?
Probably.
Because you've got a high coping there now.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you use the same coping? I'm just curious.
Well, oftentimes the coping is designed with the floor system itself. And could Could we ask them to keep it in places? Probably, but I don't want to offer that initially.
What do we do next?
So here's what I would propose. I'd love to get everybody who, again, is a stakeholder on this to look at the drawings that we sent over in the spec. Give us any comments during that period of time. I'll also collect some samples of the gym flooring that we're proposing, so you guys can sort of see it physically, understand what the system is. And then we'll also need to get into the gym and locate a place maybe behind the bleachers where it's not going to be terribly obvious. I mean, you guys have not yet decided to go forward with this either yet, right?
Depends on the bids, I think.
No,
So in terms of,
definitive.
the reason I ask is that if we do destructive testing, we should assume that the existing floor may stay in place for the next 50 years, right? So,
I would recommend we do it as discreet as possible so it doesn't affect any play going on right now the best we can.
right,
Outside the limits. I think on top of that too, I think what I'd suggest is let them review it, and I think we schedule a meeting at the school with those stakeholders, yourself, and either Carrie, and just make sure everybody understands exactly what it is we're proposing, and not being too many times. I just don't want to rely on end users to look at the documents and expect them to see what we're going to see.
Yeah, we can get just some small PDFs of the existing lining, and then the lining that we propose, which should be the same for all intents and purposes. The pickle things and all the other stuff that the games that they're playing now. I mean, they should all be the same, unless the teachers have found that maybe what they originally wanted isn't as suitable, and we have an opportunity to make a change. So I'd like them to see what's there, and then what we propose, and then let them.
Maybe also compare with because there's a submittal, there's probably usually a submittal for the line striping that gets approved before we even line stripe too.
Right.
Make sure that's all incorporated, so.
Yeah.
So what is the lead time on installation of this type of material?
So you're probably going to want to procure it just to secure the contractor. I think the lead time is more prevalent on the labor side of it than the material side of it for next summer. If you want to do it next summer, you're going to want to procure it by.
Yeah, so it comes in January, February if you can.
Locking a contractor for the summertime.
And then get it in day one that the school closes.
Also pricing too, I think you're gonna have better competitive pricing hopefully earlier. If we wait too late, then we're gonna have.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see them get in there as soon as school closes. I don't want our entire building cleaned by an outside vendor and to have dust flying all over the place while they're doing the work in there.
When do they do
We
that?
usually start mid to end of July to do the major cleaning.
So what, how many weeks does it take to do that? Is it the demo and the install?
With the demo and the install, I would say probably a week of demoing, and then there's no hazardous materials, so it's just a straight demo. And then it's probably going to take them 3 weeks to 4 weeks to install it.
So they could get it done in the summer period.
You can delay the if you had to until early August if necessary.
If necessary, we really don't want it to though, because the teachers are all trying to get in.
But if they're still right.
Jeff, yeah, there's a lot more to do. I mean, you're working on the second floor of the building is far enough away from the gym where they can start there and work their way down.
I think we can seal off have them seal off the doors. It's a
Seal off
corridor,
the doors, you can put
no
it in
access
your
from the
negative
exterior doors and pull that, pull their negative from the space to the outside.
So just you have to help me along on this because I don't know what I'm doing. The flooring materials and everything themselves, that's spec'd out in your spec. Is that a final document for bid?
There should be some layout drawings and a small set of details.
Yeah, we sent drawings, we sent details, and we sent the specs. So if those are acceptable, you could go out for bid on those. Okay. You need to go base front end probably, and some other material, but yeah.
And that that specifies material, so would there be alternates or other things that somebody could propose to replace that? I don't know, I'm just.
I mean, I think we did a standard 3-vendor spec, and you know, this is being bid through Gilbane's original contract, right? So you guys shouldn't have any problem with that. If there's somebody that you want to substitute, you know, through the usual substitution process, we can take a look at that, see if it
I think Gary is more worried about them coming back, any bidder, and saying, okay, we suggest this product, this type of install.
Right.
You know, that's.
There's 4 manufacturers listed in that specification. They transmitted out for that, so we can stick strictly to those 4. If somebody comes in with an alternate, it's not considered or equal per se. It's specified with the thickness of the wood, the face, all the wood specified.
But like Gary, I think we don't want to end up with the cheapest floor because we let someone spec something that meets the equal standard, but
Phil,
just as it is good.
That's taken care of in the substitution process that's in the contract document. Okay. So basically, we're under no obligation to accept it. Generally speaking, we have a provision that requires them to ask for the substitution before bid time. So we can be well prepared with that ahead of time, and even with all that, we can just reject it because we don't like it.
And we know that the floor that you included have multiple installers of those types of flooring in the general vicinity. Like, we're confident that the ones that are spec'd have.
4 manufacturers, you're pretty well covered.
Are the installers generally specialized in athletic flooring, or do they just a hardwood flooring contractor?
I wouldn't really know. I would leave it carried through.
What's the question? Sorry.
Are the installers typically specialized in athletic floors, or are they all hardwood floors?
Athletics floors.
Yeah, these are definitely special.
It's kind of a niche.
Yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot of contractors in the area that do it.
You know, these drawings have sleeves for volleyball nets and all the other uses that.
Those are indicated in the drawing too.
And
that's one of the reasons why we really want to make sure that we have the lines exactly where they're supposed to be, that we have the equipment in mind that they're going to be using, etc. So that's a critical part before you go out to bid that these are rock solid.
And the substructure of the systems are all pretty similar, or are they proprietary to different manufacturers?
They're all pretty similar, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, the binding agent for the sleepers in one is probably different than the other, and they may specify a different barrier, or maybe, you know, there's some variation.
Okay. Mike, I'm going to ask you, from a user of the facility, you know, we don't want to, especially with the lining and everything, the location, we don't want to get it wrong. So if we can stay involved with that, I appreciate it. Okay. Anything else on that? The interior benches, there was some additional bracketry going to be done, or some kind of supports on those. What's going on?
So the bench that's failed, we have requested that Ligier replace that bench over Christmas break. We're going back and forth on the history of the actual bracketing piece of it. Lindsay returned from maternity leave and did some research for me and sent it over to me last week. So I have to dig into that, what she had come up with. Ligier had said that they were directed to replace the brackets, but Lindsay couldn't find anything that supported that. So we're saying we're going back and forth right now on it. But the goal is to replace the actual bench that failed, and then also to review the remainder of the benches and put any kind of supplementary support that is needed on those remainder, because there's other benches throughout the building.
The replacement bench is going to be the same construction as the current bench?
It'll look the same, but it won't be supported the same.
Okay.
I think we had to review that with Phil, and when we get the proposed support? Because I know you, Phil, I think you were concerned about students kicking supports out possibly.
Yeah, I was just looking for them to go back with a straight panel, solid panel, as opposed to a leg.
Didn't we originally say they didn't make the size support that was in the spec? Was that the case?
So they make it. It's just it doesn't with the height of the bench and the length of the bench. There is a problematic piece of it that Rax doesn't make an uneven leg support. So
what was spec they couldn't use? So they came up with something else, but then it didn't work. Is that pretty much where we are?
So we believe that they could have got a custom bracket. So.
Yeah, I think the fact that they're cantilevered out so far is the issue.
The cantilever, and they're specified to be a foot on center. They're specified to be closer. The supports are very far.
It's a huge span.
Apart. It's like 8 foot, I think, for that, which is a long span for that type of bench.
So it's a matter of documentation at this point. Back and forth with them.
And the newest issue that's come up with is ceramic tile lifting in one area, and you reviewed that with the
Yes, we reviewed it with R&B Ceramic Tile, who is the installing contractor. The locations that we're having an issue with are directly above expansion joints or control joints in the concrete. So there's been some movement in the concrete, which is pretty typical. The solution is to create a joint movement in within those tiles. Those are pretty large spans of tile, and they're on running bond, and the pattern transfers from one space to another, which is all different angles of columns and slab structures. So we do have a solution. I believe we sent it over to Joe. Joe had asked a couple of questions, which we're researching with R&B regarding the treatment of the cracks below, or the treatment of the control joints in the slab below the tile.
But are these control joints all over the place? So can we expect that this is going to happen in other locations?
There's other locations that are shown. It depends on in which direction the expansion joint is, or the control joint in the slab is below the tile, how it affects the tile. If it's running perpendicular to the pattern or adjacent to the pattern. So
in this particular place that we're seeing it now, where is that? That's by the cafeteria?
Yeah, it's the hallway. It's the hallway leading to the cafeteria and the auditorium.
Yeah. So
would that joint go across the hall? No. Your face looks like.
So the joint below it doesn't run either perpendicular to the pattern and the running bond, or it's on an angle.
This is an oddball area.
It's a very oddball area, and I believe that's why it's caused the popping.
This is an existing building. This is in between because that was outdoors at one time. It's outside the auditorium, but not inside.
The only thing that worried me about that tile popping was the fact that the concrete that the tile was set in the thin set stayed on the tile and really separated from the floor almost completely.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, in my experience, that means that the floor prep or the concrete wasn't holding the thin set. When you're pushing tile, even a slight movement, I mean, there's absolutely no give in tile.
Right. So it's going to pick the weakest point to pop, and that's why you saw them pop up in that specific location.
Yeah,
that's the easiest part of the floor.
And I get the movement side of it, but the actual
instead of sticking to the concrete, it's stuck to the tile.
Stuck to the tile.
Okay, it probably had a stronger bond to the tile.
To the concrete, and for what reason?
Stronger from one to the other. Your ceramic or concrete.
It's just concerning to me that pop like that. And the other thing is we know when they're repairing that, because that's a safety issue. Just to temporarily repair it, whatever the only problem is, let's get it back down until we do it correctly.
I'm going to try and schedule them for after hours at some point. It's not a huge repair.
No.
It'll take them a few hours. But I don't have a confirmed date for it.
But you said you're finding it in other locations. It's just not as severe.
Correct.
We're finding crack.
Cracks, but not.
We reviewed
lifting
all
like
of
that.
the locations that we had, that
Of those
of the entire area with R&B. Because it's a very similar issue wherever you go, it's just not behaving in the same fashion as it is directly outside the cafeteria and auditorium hallway there. And it's probably because that's got a joint that's running at a weird angle to the tile pattern.
We're glad to hear it's not water, because it's right outside the bathroom.
Yeah, it's not.
How do you fix it?
You remove the tile in that whole area, you have to treat the control joint. There's a Schluter product that's made to provide like a soft joint in the tile.
Oh, that help?
Schluter
The Schluter product.
I get it now. Let's move on to the next.
The Schluter part is not part of it, we're all set.
So it basically creates a soft joint within the tile floor, so that if the slab below it moves, the tile on either side can move, but it doesn't crack or pop or break the grout.
So that's like pretty ugly.
No, it actually.
Going across.
Well, we're not going to put it on an angle.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Yeah, we're not. It's got to go with the pattern of the tile, but it's got to give both sides of that that joint.
Can you get away with it going horizontally across?
Then it won't be the pattern of the tile.
It'll go with the pattern of the tile.
But not the long one. That's what the down the hall.
No,
Across.
not long ways down the hallway. It'll go perpendicular
Okay.
to the hallway. No, that was.
So are you trying to just be a thicker grout line in that area to accommodate the
I
tile?
think in your packet, did it say in the packet?
It's basically like a.
It's a shooter joint.
It's almost like a metal expansion joint that's got caulk in between it.
Oh, alright.
Was it like a flag?
Okay.
It
won't be
looks
lifted.
nice. I mean,
I could buy it.
you see them in floors all over the place. You go to the mall where there's miles and miles of tile. You'll see the expansion joints in the tile.
Schluter joint.
The Schluter joint.
So we're gonna do that to each of the spots where this joint is then? In other locations?
There's 3 locations where there's an issue occurring. With some locations it's just cracked grout because the joint goes directly with the pattern.
So it's a very thin crack in the tile.
Yeah. So instead of just grinding out that grout and re-grouting it and then having it crack again, or just putting a soft joint in there, which is hard to maintain, this is a longer lasting solution to treating some of those products or those places where the slabs are shifting.
So
Sometimes it's seasonal too, and sometimes it continues to happen. It's not like a building settlement or anything like that. It's just a seasonal shift in slab.
with the concrete?
Yeah. They don't move a lot.
Just a little bit, just throw enough force
Just a little
on
bit.
it.
So we're progressing with that. We'll have more information in a second.
Yeah, I'll have more information for the 10th, and hopefully we'll have at least the one where they've popped installed. Along with that is it's another item on your list of outstanding items is the nosing. It's the same contractor that's doing the nosing, where the nosing goes out to the stairs.
Ah.
When they come back,
Main staircase.
when they come back to fix those issues that they have.
Okay. Oh, that just sparked those rails. We have to make sure that we specify the right paint
Correct.
on those stairways. Okay. Moving on. Chuck, you have anything you want to update us on?
So we're still waiting. We're still waiting to hear from the state on some of the state change orders and that close. I haven't heard anything back from them. So I'm going to reach out to them again to see if we can get the state change orders approved. We're going to be reconciling with Ed Swinkowski on December 5th in our offices to get everything reconciled from make sure what we're showing paid, what they show paid. We reconcile so that we can submit a reimbursement request.
Can you make sure Frank, our new temporary financial director?
Yeah, I'll go talk to him afterwards and touch base because he had some quick overturn there. from Jason. So we're preparing that. They do have a new system in the state. We went up and did the training already, so we're familiar with it. We're familiar with it. So
they took me up there for some reason.
I went up there.
I'm not a financial guy.
I
have no business bringing me.
Yeah, no, we sat in on that training. It's not much different than before. A couple of slight differences, but we have that in place. So we can certainly, once we do the reconciliation with Ed and his team, we can prepare the updated 46. I think one thing we have to maybe set up a meeting with them to discuss the early letters of ineligibles, because I think that's going to kind of come into play on the notwithstanding.
I know we put a request in when we went up and got training for X amount that was submitted, and I don't know if it was ever approved or what they did. It looked like we did it right.
Prior requests? I think prior requests were fine. I know the team.
No, this was done during the training.
Oh, during the training.
On the new system.
Okay.
For X amount of dollars. And
or I'll have to get that information because that'll affect what we prepare ultimately in the next one.
That was done with Jason and Dr. Cronin.
That's right, he did that one, late October. He was coming
we were getting on a plane and trying to reach you or something.
Yeah.
So the Dr. Cronin letter basically did not get garner a response?
Not yet. It's not to say that it hasn't. I said it isn't more that moves into. Haven't seen it yet. It's not to say that they're not going to respond, but I haven't heard unless they have forwarded a letter yet. They won't send it directly to us. They'll send it to the district, so they may have responded.
Okay. Hey, Joe, anything else?
No.
Carrie?
I think I reported on all of our outstanding items.
Okay. Before we go, next item is going to executive session. Does anybody have any questions that our team needs to address?
When will we get the numbers for the gym floor project?
We have to approve the specs first and then go out to bid.
Okay. So that, just in terms of there's some other potential issues that we can get to,
right? But
we can't get to them until we figure out what we have to spend. I'm just trying to get a sense of how long it takes to try to move the ball down the field as it relates to some of the remaining issues that would be nice, but may or may not be realistic.
Did you guys already get an estimate on it?
We had an estimate, but
so you.
300 and something.
So you'd have to go out to bid to get the.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that in December we scheduled a meeting to review the final docs, the layouts. I think that's probably most important.
Bidding in January, but there's nothing. I don't think there's anything stopping us from bidding it earlier than February. I would say you need to bid it by February if you want.
If we can get out in January, I'd recommend that. Just to get in there as soon as we can. Probably a couple week lead time. So I imagine numbers. Probably mid-February. That's what I would guess. That's how we do it all. Scoped out. Like to get a part.
Next item is to go into executive session for discussion of the air emissions action plan. So I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session with Jeffrey D'Onofrio and Charles Warrington as guests. Weston, Phil Diana, and Tammy Jaburi as guests. Is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, we're back in open session.
Matters.
Next item is for our next meeting on December 10th. We will definitely meet on that date.
Yep.
Public comment? I don't see any. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.